Hi, my name is Michael. It's probably for the sixth time because I can't get this thing to work. But I did my project on magnetostratigraphy for our research essay for Anthro 480. And just to tell you why I chose this particular topic, when we were going over it, I think it was chapter 10 in the section regarding like relative dating techniques. I found it particularly interesting just because I'm a physics major, and so magnetism uh, is analogous to the stuff that I'm learning in my other classes, and so I thought it would be interesting to kind of co-opt the two in my essay. And then another thing was kind of just the breadth of the topic. Um, it's a area that has an abundance of research and like data and information to just kind of glean from. And on top of that, even though uh, magnetism and anthropology has a abundance of information to look at, when that's applied specifically to Neanderthals and Neanderthal extinction, it gets specific enough that you can kind of create like a concise essay um, without having to read too much like scientific journals or um, write-ups or whatever. And so, yeah, we can just dive in. So the basics of magnetostratigraphy is it's a relative dating technique, and it uses the polarity of magnetic and sedimentary material on Earth, and it correlates that to the polarity of Earth at the time. And what this means is, or the best way I can explain it, is that Earth has a polarity, and right now it's north and south pole, but it switches where the south pole will be at the geographic north pole, and the north pole will be at the geographic south pole. And it does this frequently, or like at least in the time scale of like the Earth, it does it frequently, around like every 300 or so thousand years. And using this kind of frequent changes of polarity that happen on Earth, geographers, and anthropologists can correlate that to the material on Earth, and then use that to date fossils, which is really interesting. Um, where the topic of polarity kind of intersects with Neanderthals is the fact that when the Earth does these changes in polarity, the magnetic field is affected. And the magnetic field is kind of tantamount to like to Earth's organisms' ability to be protected from the sun. In particular, Earth's magnetic field plays a pivotal role in the preservation of stratospheric ozone, as well as the atmospheric composition, the density, the oxygen levels, as well as protecting us, even like right now, from UVA and UVB rays, which are detrimental to the health of, I mean, humans and organisms, in that it causes a litany of different cancers and mutations. Um, and so, where that comes into play with Neanderthals is that around 41,000 years ago, when Neanderthals faced extinction, there was a magnetic event. It's called a magnetic excursion, at least this specific one. It was called the Last Champ event, named after the volcanic material in France, um, where this event was, I guess, kind of discovered. Um, and when this magnetic event happened at its minimum, during the polarity flip, it had 10% of the magnetic strength that we have right now, which is, I mean, which is significant. I mean, that's 90% loss, right? Um, and so G.E.T. Chanel, who this, like, my essay borrows a lot from, he makes a correlation between the last champ event and that polarity flip and the extinction of Neanderthals. That being said, even prior to this, I mean, we did there was a section in our class about Neanderthal extinction. This couldn't be like the singular event that like had caused the extinction of Neanderthals. And he doesn't say it could be either. Like we learned in class, it was a litany of different things. It was assimilation with Homo sapiens because there's interbreeding. It was the drastic climate change that was happening during the period. It was, I think, or I believe, during the extinction of Neanderthals, Earth was facing a glaciation period. It was also the fact that it was during the Quaternary extinction, where many like large megafauna, especially in Europe, were killed off, and like we learned, Neanderthals were hunters of large, megafauna, and without that, high, caloric food, they didn't really have a chance to live out in the bitter cold of northern Europe. Um, but what he does kind of uh, draw upon is that while it couldn't be the singular thing that affected Neanderthals, it definitely could have had an effect because during this time, organisms were just getting a lot more radiation than they would be generally. Um, but then that also begs the question, because Homo sapiens were around during this the same time, and obviously we're still here. So why were Neanderthals affected by this increase of radiation during this polarity flip, and why not Homo sapiens? And in this, he kind of goes into the phenology of Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, and he attributes it to a gene transcription factor called AHR, which is, I guess, a chemosensor that like regulates the transcription of genes that uh, regulate our response, our stress response to ultraviolet radiation. And obviously, this is particularly important because how we biologically react to ultraviolet radiation could be why Homo sapiens are here and Neanderthals aren't, or it could be a attributing factor at least. Um, the specific AHR variant that Homo sapiens have is called Val381, and research done by a geneticist, last name Hubbard, observed that ours, compared to the Neanderthal variant of AHR, exhibited higher cellular stress response, differentiation, inflammation, and as well as I guess, faster pathways in responding to ultraviolet B radiation. Ultraviolet B being the highest energy radiation that reaches Earth's surface. And so the kind of the purpose of the paper is showing that um, there's a likelihood that because of the specific way that Homo sapiens were able to deal with ultraviolet radiation, that maybe they had a slight advantage during this magnetic minimum, in protecting themselves and having the right stress responses to this radiation in the form of like tanning and such. Anyways, that's what my paper was about. I found it really interesting, and also found what I learned about Earth's magnetic field interesting. I thought that learning about all the possible ways of Neanderthals' possible extinction was interesting. And so, yeah, that was my essay. I look forward to reading your guys' essay. You guys have a good one.